incarceration. Please, Dr. Kristiana.
So good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Asmon and Professor Sawitri, who already give me opportunity to share our recently research about Indonesia substance use reduction for female therapy. So we don't have any guideline, evidence-based guideline for methamphetamine use in Indonesia, especially for women. And why we choose in prison? Because from previous research, it mentioned that 53% women in the prison because of drug use disorder, and most of them use methamphetamine, and we still do not have any treatment in the prison for methamphetamine use in a male or female prison. So we try to develop guideline for female in the prison with methamphetamine use. So we start from the global data. Here. Okay. Oh, yeah. So this is the global data. So this is from UNODC, of course. The number of people with drug use disorder, around 64 million people. And it's increasing over 3 years, around 3%. And 1/3 of them are women. But just 1 in 18 among women in the treatment. So it's lower compared to male who come to the treatment. And we can see here, globally, it's higher among female in persecuted and convicted for drug offense, especially in drug trafficking. So the female who are involved in persecuted and convicted for drug offense, especially in drug trafficking, is higher compared to male. And this is our data in Indonesia. Faisal in 2017 mentioned 51% drug use disorder among women prisoners in our country. And this is the background, of course, it is globally. So there is increasing methamphetamine use trend in globally since 2010 until 2022. And methamphetamine is one of favorite drugs among women across age groups. So we can see here from 12 or older, 12 until 17, 18 until 25, and 26 or older. They are looks like use methamphetamine compared to other drugs. And the prevalence of using methamphetamines is among women 0.9%. So it's the most favorite drugs among women. And how about in Indonesia? So we can see here the prevalence of substance use disorder in Indonesia also increasing since 2019 to 2021. Since in 2019 we have 1.8%, and in 2021 we have 1.95%. And women, how about them? So it's increasing from 0.5 into 1.46 in 2021. And methamphetamine is the second highest substance used in Indonesia. And also, Septi et al. In 2020 mentioned, she has done the research in prison. She mentioned that 85% use multiple substance, including methamphetamine and other substance. And the highest one is use methamphetamine in the prison. And of course, about women and substance use disorder is the challenging condition in our country and also globally, because women has a unique condition as biological, psychological, and social aspect. And then that's why they need a very unique treatment also. But in Indonesia, we don't have specialized substance use disorder treatment program for women. And also we can read that National Commission on Violence Against Women in 2019 mentioned that 80% women were incarcerated due to substance abuse. So this is very critical condition for women in the prison. And there is no specialized substance use disorder treatment program for women in the prison, also in our country. So this is very complex problem in the prisons. But the treatment in the prison actually is very important because they will come to the community. So we can think that how can they abstinence in the community if they do not have any treatment, they do not get any treatment in the prison. So that's why we think that we want to have the research and develop the guideline for the treatment, especially for women with methamphetamine use in the prison. So we can reduce the relapse to substance use, and also we can reduce the criminal recidivism among the women who use methamphetamine use. So we call the program with Indonesia Substance Use Reduction for Female Therapy. This is the pilot study for women with methamphetamine use disorder in a women prison in Jakarta in Indonesia. We have 2 women prison in Jakarta. This is very big prison, and we do the pilot in the biggest prison in Jakarta. And we have 12 group CBT session. We adapted the module from Seeking Safety Treatment Manual from Liza Nazavit from US, and we choose 12 modules from 25 topics module from Liza Nazavit modules. We choose the topics with focus group discussion with 3 expert, addiction psychiatrics expert. And we have 2 sessions per week. So we have 41 women prisoners who were charged for narcotic naive to medical rehabilitation. And we examine them with ASIS, and then we exclude 8 participants because they do not include because the detention period is not included and they do not having methamphetamine use disorder. So we have 33 participants and we divide it into 4 groups. And then at the end of therapy, we have just 30 participants because 3 participants were not included in analysis because the attendance less than 80%. And this is the 12 topics we selected through FGD of 3 addiction psychiatrists. So we have 12 modules that we gave every week, 2 sessions per week to the participant. And this is the demographic characteristic. So the 100 respondents are both drug dealer and user. So the drug dealers in Indonesia, most of them are female. So this is very scary and also very critical condition also in our country. And the main sentences years is almost 7 years. And then we can see here 3% of them having family members incarcerated. So when I come to the prison, so the participant also has a mother in the prison or has the sister in the prison. And almost 30% of them has a history of psychiatric disorder, and 25% have underwent therapy prior to incarceration. But none of them continue medication in prison because there is no medication for psychiatric comorbidity in the prison. And 75% of them never seek any therapy. And 26% of them have history of childhood trauma. And this is, we examine them with addiction severity index. And we can see here for drug and also legal problem is almost, is the higher one. It's higher than 4 score. So it means that they think drugs and legal problem is very important for them, and they do not meet any help for drugs and legal in the prison. So we can see here, they do not meet any help for drugs problem in the prison. It means that there is no treatment for the problem, for drug problem that they have in the prison. So this is the unmet needs among female methamphetamine user in the prison. And also we examine them with addiction severity index with composite scores. And we can see here, in the pre-therapy, employment is very very high in the number or composite score because they try to have activities in the prison. Actually, in the prison, they can collect coupon by doing some activities. For example, they can do massage or they can do cleaning, and they have coupon to change with food or with soap to self-care. And then at the end of therapy, it's still very high, but the purpose is changing. They want to have money or coupon to have better self-care. And then they collect the coupon because they want to contact the family member. So it means that they want to contact the family members and they want to have communication and better communication with the family member after the end of the therapy. So it's changing. Before the therapy, they do not want to contact with the family member. And of course, the score with alcohol and drug is lower because there is no access to get alcohol and drug in the prison. They can smoke actually, but of course alcohol and drug there is no drugs and alcohol in the prison. And we also assess the craving with visual analog scale from 1 until 10, and we analyze this data, and average tonic craving is decreasing. Tonic craving is, we assess the craving without stimulus. It's very important to also assess the phasic craving. It means we can assess the craving with the stimulus, but in this research, we assess the craving without the stimulus. So we also think that it's very important for us to teach them to have regulation in emotional regulation. So it's our notes in to the future treatment for them. And also we assess the Eureka. Eureka is to assess the motivational to change. And then we can see here, most of the participant transition into action and also into contemplation. But also there are participants regress to pre-contemplation and regress to contemplation, pre-contemplation and contemplation. So we analyze why they regress to the worst motivation. So they just think they cannot get money except from sell the drugs. So they are also drug dealers and they think that I can get fast money except I sell the drugs. So this is also the problem about financial issue. And this is the qualitative data. We try to ask them, what is the definition of being safe? So this is the qualitative data from them. Being safe means I will surrounded by supportive network and receive emotional and practical support from family members, good physical health, and then have meaningful activities, have effective communication, and have self-control, emotional regulation, and also regularly religious or spiritual practices. They won't have this one in the prison before they go out to the community. And then we also assess they have initial thoughts in the prison about self-blaming and also about hopeless life, and this means self-worth. But in the focus group discussion, we try to change the initial thoughts, and then they can have alternative thoughts like accepting and adapting to the current circumstances and also maintaining a positive outlook. And they want to develop a self-regulation skill and strengthening familial bonding. So that's why at the end of therapy, they try to contact the family members quite often than before. And then they try to do more self-care like exercise and then reduce the smoking, and they want to have safe sex in the future and avoid multiple sexual partner in the future. And this is the commitment that we have, we get them from the participant at the end of the therapy. They want to be a better mother, they want to improve emotional regulation, and then they want to be a greater personal responsibility in daily life. They want to refrain from substance use. They want to be a trustworthy individual, and they want to be positive and healthy lifestyle and seek spiritual growth. So we try to have commitment. What is your commitment after the end of the therapy? And we try to assess also the self-confidence level for preventing drug use relapse among the participants. And this is also very surprised us, because half of them just has 50% self-confidence level from relapsing, not relapsing from substance use. So it means that it needs booster therapy for them, or continuing therapy in the prison to prevent the relapse. So this is the barrier to sustain abstinence from drugs use, like drug use is the quick solution to financial difficulties, and then they have inadequate support system in the community. So this is still our homework to have to give the booster program for them. So this is the qualitative data. They mentioned the benefit from group CBT. They have better emotional regulation, and then better knowledge regarding negative impact of substance use, and better knowledge about craving, triggers, and how to handle craving, and know that there is such treatment for substance use disorder. So I highlight the last one. They know that there is such treatment for substance use disorder. So they didn't know there is a treatment for substance use disorder before. So this is very sad condition because we have many management for substance use disorder, but most of them do not know there is a treatment for substance use disorder. And most of them satisfied with the module of CBT. This is the future direction. So for the last message, it's very important to incorporate many aspects for female with methamphetamine use in the prison, because they are very unique and they need unique tailor-made treatment. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kristiana, for this is a program specific for women, so this is very good that 1 in 18 women who get the treatment. So the next presenter will be Professor Joe Galenter from Yale University School of Medicine from the US. And Professor Joe Galenter will talk about the approach, the new approach, innovative approach to the amphetamine type stimulant addiction. And I think Professor will use his own computer, so please wait a minute during we change the computers.
Yep.
But you can talk before the okay. So
Thank you
please.
very much, Dr. Osman. Yep, ready to go. So I'm going to talk about what we've been able to do with genetics of cannabis use and cannabis use disorder. And I'm going to show some of our data from genetics of methamphetamine use disorder from Thailand and the implications of one for the other. Let's see. Is this plugged in? Is this supposed to work? Oh, there we go. Okay, conflicts of interest. Sadly, very little. I do editorial work for the journal Complex Psychiatry. Okay, so my colleagues and I have been doing work in substance use disorder genomics going back to 2001. So some of the highlights are we've done the most detailed work to date on population genetics of minority Thai populations. We've translated 2 modern psychiatric assessment instruments into Thai. The SADA, and the data I'm going to show is based on the SADA. Also the Mind Biobank instrument, which is the basis of work that we're doing now, again with Dr. Kaiseri. We have already collected the largest Asian sample to date with careful ascertainment, specifically informative for substance use genetics. And we've also published the first SUD-GWAS, genome-wide association studies in those populations. We've done phenotype studies of methamphetamine dependence and psychosis in a deeply phenotyped sample of over 6,000 subjects. As part of a series of D43 training grants funded by the National Institutes of Health, we've trained a cadre of independent researchers in Bangkok and in Chiang Mai. Training continued with new sites. By the way, we're recruiting postdocs, so if anyone wants to train in the US at Yale, please get in touch with me or with Dr. Potenza, and it's something that we can discuss. And we're now working on our R01 renewal project on genomics of methamphetamine use disorder in Bangkok and Chiang Mai. We have numerous trainees who are now active in Thailand, who've received some of their training through our work at Yale, just showing very briefly examples of some of those publications. Dr. Tirayuth chaired the prior session with Dr. Potenza. And the rest of the time, I'm going to talk about some of our genomic studies. So first question to ask is, why do this work? It's time-consuming, it's complicated, it requires large samples and many years of work. As I've already said, we've been working here for almost 25 years. What do we get from them? Well, for psychiatric traits, genes tend to account for about half the risk. For SUD traits, some a little lower, some much higher. If we understand the genes that predispose to risk for the trait, then we can understand part of the biology for the disorder too. And a lot of the time, that's the best way into the biology, into attaining a better understanding of where the disorder comes from. Once we have genome-wide data from GWAS studies, we can look at the genetic relationships between the disorder of interest and other disorders and traits. We can do pleiotropy analyses, which are analyses that look at shared genetic risk. We can do Mendelian randomization studies, which look at causality. And we can do a host of other kinds of studies once we have post-GWAS data. There's the potential for drug repositioning studies also. So what are some kinds of GWAS and post-GWAS analyses? Genome-wide association analyses interrogate the entire genome, all 3 billion bases, to identify genetic variants that associate with the trait of interest. And then this allows us to uncover trait biology. And then once we have the GWAS, we have summary statistics, which is data from 10 million or so single nucleotide variants, each with a known genomic location and an association p-value and a beta value. With these summary statistics, we can do a range of analyses, linkage disequilibrium score regression, genomic structural equation modeling, phenome-wide association analyses where we take the genomic risk and then we say what other traits are associated with the genomic risk for the first trait. And as I said, Mendelian randomization. My first focus is going to be on cannabis genetics. This is some data showing some of the increase and importance of cannabis use just in the US, where we had in 2020 the number of US households with daily or near daily use, number with daily or near daily use for cannabis surpassed daily or near daily use for alcohol. And this corresponds with a growing trend for decriminalization and even for legalization. So that's an important secular trend. Recently, numerous state governments in the US have legalized both medical and recreational use of marijuana. And it's worth pointing out that although it's called medical marijuana, generally speaking, there's very little in the way of good randomized control trial data that supports the purported medical uses. And the legalization has resulted in increased cannabis use, increased cannabis dependence, and the consequences of this action for the public have not been fully recognized. So just for example, under the previous presidential administration in the US, regulatory steps were taken to lead to the gradual removal of nicotine from tobacco products, from the realization that nicotine is what motivates dependence on tobacco products and cigarette smoking. But there has been no analogous effort to remove THC from cannabis products. In fact, the opposite, where medical marijuana purveyors have been allowed to advertise their THC content and to do advertising based on that. Thailand has recently undergone an experiment in medical and recreational cannabis use, and it seems like just around now, Thailand has started to take a few steps backwards, where it has pretty much finished its recreational use legalization experiment, although medical marijuana continues, and perhaps if we have time, someone else will want to comment on what's going on in Thailand a bit. So we'll look now at cannabis use disorder genetics. As recently as 2020, this is data from the Psychiatric Genomics Consortium, or PGC, GWAS, of cannabis use disorder. There were only 2 mapped genetic risk loci for cannabis use disorder. They were CHRNA2, a nicotinic receptor locus, and FOXP2, which is known as a language-related gene. And this is called a Manhattan plot. It goes from chromosome 1 to 22. The dotted red line is level of statistical significance on a log scale. So the dots that you see that are above that line are the ones that are statistically significantly associated with cannabis use disorder. So we went further than that PGC study from 2020, mostly by using data from the Million Veteran Program. So the Million Veteran Program is a large US military-based biobank. Over 1 million subjects have been recruited. We have genotype and phenotype data on over 600,000 subjects now. And the MVP allowed us to approximately double the number of cannabis use disorder cases that are available for study. So the analysis for this work was led by Dan Levy. That's a picture of him. He was also first author of the paper. And this paper was published in Nature Genetics nearly 2 years ago now. So if you want to look for the study, Nature Genetics, but it's been published. So I want to briefly go into the main results of this study. So this slide shows 4 Manhattan plots, and they're the Manhattan plots showing the results individually for 4 population groups. And going from top to bottom, they're East Asian, admixed American, which corresponds to Hispanic or Latino, AFR, which is an African American, and EUR, which is European American. And in the tables to the left, you see case and control counts. So what I want to point out on this slide is that we had significant results in every population. So that's very good. The results were different in the different populations. We often see this with genomic studies. And the number of hits or genome-wide significant results is roughly proportional to the sample size. But even in the African ancestry and the East Asian ancestry populations, there were significant findings despite the fact that the case counts were quite modest. So under 200 in one case and under 3,000 in the other. And this will be of interest when we compare these results to the results for methamphetamine use disorder in Thai populations, where we have similar case counts to these. So going by comparison with cannabis use disorder, we're just about at the point where we might reasonably expect to see some significant findings in Asian ancestry populations. This is a closer look at the results in European ancestry subjects with the genes annotated. And let's see, do I have a pointer? I do not have a pointer, but I'll just point out a few of the genes of interest here. One of our hits is near CNR1, which is the gene that encodes one of the cannabinoid receptors. So this kind of makes sense. I have 2 minutes. I've only been talking 9 minutes. Sorry, I'm going to take my full 15 minutes. If you need to go for coffee, it's understood. So cannabinoid receptor, CNR1. Another one of our hits was a D2 dopamine receptor, DRD2. The DRD2 hit has been seen commonly in other substance use disorders. DRD2 encodes D2 dopamine receptor. It's important in reward pathways. And as I said, it's common to substance use traits. So this slide illustrates the difference in genetic correlation between cannabis use disorder, which is in red, and cannabis use at a non-disordered level, which is in blue. And I want to point out some of the differences in association between those two traits. So since I'm running very low on time, I'll just draw your attention to the far left trait, which is EA. It stands for educational attainment. Cannabis use disorder is negatively correlated with educational attainment, whereas cannabis use has a positive correlation with educational attainment. It is a common pattern in substance use and substance use disorder genetics that the pattern of correlation is somewhat different, and this is one of the major windows into biology that we've attained through genetic studies of substance use disorders. Another thing that we showed in this study through Mendelian randomization was a causal relationship between cannabis use disorder and lung cancer. So there had been phenotypic associations between cannabis use disorder and lung cancer, but now we have genomic data also. And this is something that I think it would be helpful to bring to the attention of the public who have been led to believe that cannabis has fewer ill medical effects potentially than tobacco or alcohol, and that doesn't seem to be true. All right, I was going to talk about the genetic relationships between cannabis use and use disorder and other substance use traits and other psychiatric traits, running very low on time. Instead, I'll refer you to these two papers. One was published last year in Molecular Psychiatry. The other one was published in May in Nature Mental Health. The first author for both was Marco Galimberti. You can either search on that and they'll come up easily, or email me if you want a reference. It's Marco Galimberti, the postdoctoral fellow who led this work. And I'll just point out from this work that, again, the genetic correlations for cannabis use and cannabis use disorder are quite different in these models too. So no time, so I can't talk about the genetic correlations. We have other work that we have just completed, and this is work under review. The manuscript is currently in revision, of an expanded genome-wide association analysis of cannabis lifetime use. This is work led by Uri Bright in my lab. Some of the hits are NCAM1, CADM2. CADM2 is a cell adhesion molecule which has come up in many substance use traits. And what I want to point out about cannabis lifetime use is that we did a PheWAS, or a phenome-wide association analysis, on this trait. And one of the very interesting hits that we got for other traits that are phenotypically associated with genetic predisposition to cannabis lifetime use is erectile dysfunction. So we think this would be another very useful thing to bring to the attention of the public that might have the potential to decrease cannabis use. If lung cancer doesn't deter you, maybe erectile dysfunction does. The last thing I'm going to talk about is some of our early results from methamphetamine use disorder in Thailand. This is a brand new analysis done by Hong Zhao, who's an assistant professor at Yale. This is from data from our last R01, meta-analyzed with methamphetamine use disorder, data from a Chinese group in Beijing. We now have 4,600 cases and over 12,000 controls, which is getting to be a respectable number for genome-wide association analysis. This is the brand new Manhattan plot. You can see from this that there are plenty of hits above the suggestive level. That's 10 to the minus 5, but no genome-wide significant hits yet. We continue to collect data. We're expecting a new tranche of data any day now, and we're hoping that we'll be able to go over the line and begin to make more progress in understanding the genetics of methamphetamine use disorder and YABA use. So cannabis studies show that with large samples, you can make very substantial gene mapping project, which leads to novel biology, and I've shown you some of the novel biology that it's led to. Our Thai meth study, today it's underpowered, tomorrow maybe not. We're addressing this by adding subjects via our current recruitment in Bangkok with Dr. Kalayasiri. Previously also in Chiang Mai, we're actively looking for new sources for recruitment. We're investigating future recruitment at Hat Yai and Chiang Mai University. And we're also proceeding in our efforts to obtain additional methamphetamine data from the Taiwan Biobank. Our previous studies show that this work can be done, and we really can get new biology from genomic studies. We're continuing in our efforts to recruit trainees to study at Yale. Again, if you know anyone or if you yourself want to study, come to me, Dr. Potenza or Dr. Kalayasiri. And we're presently developing a new project in suicide and depression genetics that we hope to start in Thailand in the next 18 months or so, actively looking for collaborators on that. We have very active work in our group in psychiatric genetics. We just had another paper out on genetics of levels of physical activity, came out in the journal Nature Genetics 2 weeks ago. We have very high hopes for more work on genomic studies in Thailand. And with that, I just want to acknowledge some of my key collaborators and questions at the discretion of the chair of the session.
Thank you very
Thank you for
much,
your
Professor
attention.
Jokalenter. And sadly, we don't have Q&A session because we started late because of the previous session. So I apologize for no Q&A. And we have the next session waiting for us to leave the stage. And thank you very much. And if anyone have question, please come to the floor that outside the room. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.